Hey guys, before we start the video, I just want to say there are two other videos before this that you'll have to watch, otherwise this won't make any sense. I will put them in the description field down below. Alright, I hope you guys enjoy. Hello there, I'm Karina, and I think I'm about to walk you through a high school girl's worst nightmare. I ran into what I thought was my soulmate. I only say that because things changed between him and I, quickly. His name was Callum, and when we met, he wasn't the popular guy. To be honest, he was kind of a nobody, but I liked him that way. It was easy for it to just be me and him all the time. It was a change from my complicated family life. Now our senior year came and he changed drastically. Callum's parents moved overseas, and he was left alone. Aside from me, he officially was alone, and he began some questionable things. I'm not sure if it was a cry for help or what, but he started putting himself in danger, talking to gangbangers and mobsters, all kinds of deviants. I wanted to protect him from the world I knew all too well. Callum went in too deep too fast. He started something that you absolutely cannot just walk away from. Drug deals from the gangsters wasn't something I worried about with him. Callum is smart. He's calm and calculated, and he hardly messes up when he works on something he is devoted to. What worried me was the extortion and bribery he committed for my family, unknowingly. An introduction is required. My name is Corin Pone, and my family has a direct blood tie to Al Capone. They partially changed the last name to lay low when Capone went down. My family thought, didn't let the family business and way of life die. I'm a rare princess in the mob world, and yes, I do take an active role in the life. I thought that I was protecting Callum by saying nothing. I had no idea he was going to force his way into criminal life. A family friend came into town recently, in one of property in return for a stake in the area that is controlled by my family. The offers were fair, but we were building, and a stake in a development mob town that has a lot of profit to be made. The negotiations went south. Needless to say, Tom was not very happy with the outcome, and left with a threat. I'll take what you wouldn't give me, and it for damn sure is gonna hurt. You've made one mistake so far. Let's see what others you'll make. My response was simple. Guards. I was firm. I showed no fear. My family and our ties were all loyal, and we held the most power. At least that's what I thought. The following weeks I ended up seeing less and less of Callum. I went to his house a couple of times, just not to find him. He stopped answering my text, and essentially all forms of communication. I was lost and confused. It is almost like he was cutting me out of his life, and I wasn't considered at all. To him I must have not meant much, but he was the love of my life. It was a hard pill to swallow. He stopped going to school. I could only imagine what he was doing, and it hurt me a lot. I was an emotional train wreck. What I did not know at the time was he was going through some other things that would drive anyone crazy. He was being tormented by someone. I knew all too well, but I could not do anything about the events. I had no idea it took place. I received a call from Tom, the same colleague I had escorted from my estate after he threatened me. Yes, dear Tom, I answered in a flat tone. I warned you, darling, and his cold voice echoed in my head. I warned you that I would take what you kept away from me. What do you mean, Tom? I was becoming angry. Unable to keep a level head, my mind was racing. Did he have something to do with Cal? I took your future. In fact, I employed him. Don't worry though, he's performing well. Tom's voice trailed. My family was working alongside of Tom's for a very long time, and while we are not saints by any means, he is diabolical, using his people as pawns just to throw them away when they no longer become useful to him. It's sickening and I hate him for it. What did you do? Did you talk to Callum? Are you the reason he isn't responding? I fired all those questions at him, just for them to be expertly deflected. You know, sweetheart, he is very different than others. I've picked up before. He is truly a natural. I'd say a prodigy, and I think that if he's given time and the right guidance, he could. I cut off the conversation. I yelled and screamed, damning the man that just took what I considered to be everything. I ordered my family and all of our immediate contacts to dive into the situation and bring me any information they could dig up on Tom and his plans for Callum. Nothing. I had received zero information for days, and those days turned out to be my darkest. I dreamt for the punishment I would make Tom go through to atone for his sins. I obsessed over my lost love and asked favors of my family. I asked for access to an instructor I claimed for self-defense, but I'm sure that my family knew what I was going for. I trained for months. Still, even with all my people collecting information, very little to nothing came our way. I was improving in all categories: speed, agility, various hand-to-hand styles, shooting and climbing. I was so close to being exactly where I needed to be. I had found rhythm. Work, school, everything was in place, and all I needed was to wait for Tom to slip so I could take my chance. Not long after, one of my capos came to me in person to tell me that Tom was holding a very hush-hush gala, one that was instructed to be hidden from my family, me in particular. Now, the gala was being held the same night the information came to me, so I had little time to dawdle. As soon as the capo left my presence, it was time to go. I gathered materials such as 2 knives, a family revolver, and rope. Obviously, my outfit had to be on point as well, so I went with a modern, chick spy-esque look. A two-tone black and gray jumpsuit that fit tightly around my body. I was ready. The information I received was true location and all, but it was less of a gala, but a really off-the-books auction in some shady overgrown building. The lot was owned by his family, but there were no completed buildings. All of them were just shells of what could be. I made my way onto the property, sticking to the shadows, and remembered everything I've prepared for. Strategies, confrontation, and everything that could possibly happen. You can never be too prepared. I carefully plotted escape routes and potential ledges I could use to jump up or down. After all the consideration and planning, I made my move. A quick climb over a 7-foot brick wall, and I was in. Dim lights were strung about, assumingly to direct the guest. I figured I was going to find any dirt on Tom and my boyfriend. It wasn't going to be during the main event. There were armed guards, all wearing plain white masks that had no features marking them impossible to differentiate. Not that I was going to ask any questions tonight. I found a vantage point in one of the buildings that was adjacent to the main building that was used at night. 6 stories tall, and I was above everyone, and I had a decent line of sight on the festivities. Too far to hear anything, but close enough to make out the faces of underground affiliates. My family was excluded, so I could only assume that Tom was plotting a coup. If anything, I would return to my father and report my findings. An hour went by, and then 2. I saw a gathering around the oblong table, and looked like an argument at times, and then at others it looked like a family dinner. It was hard to tell. I heard a gun cock behind me. "Stay still." I knew the voice. Tears flowed from my eyes and down my cheeks. "Callum?" I gasped, my voice barely audible to me. I guess I was in shock. My body was numb. I stood up shakily and turned. "Callum." My love was pointing a gun to me no more than 20 feet away. I tried talking to him, but he didn't even flinch. He removed his mask and looked me dead in the eye. He had lost his humanity. I'm not even sure if he was consciously looking at me. His eyes looked primal, as if they were relying on instinct. I saw him twitch right before he began to pull the trigger of his pistol. I started off in a sprint using the pillars that were around as cover. He emptied the clip. He actually shot at me, and if it weren't for the spacing of the pillars, I would have been dead. Callum was one hell of a shot. In fact, I think he's better than I was at the time. I threw my body into the door that sectioned off the stairs and flung my body down every flight of stairs I could, and I did this as controlled as I could. In seconds, I was on the bottom floor, and I started towards the wall. I scaled over to get inside. I used the corner and jumped up and propelled my body over. I used one hand to make sure I could clear the wall. All the agility training was worth it. Aside from being scared, I came out relatively unscathed. I ran home and cried in my mom's lap. I screamed and cried for hours as I explained the night's events to my family. My face flushed red from the tears, and my straight brown hair matted from rolling and burrowing into my mother. I was laid down to rest and was told that we would talk coherently in the morning. Of course, this suggestion came from my father. He was always calm and calculated. He analyzed every situation, and that was one of my shortcomings I'd never acknowledged. The next morning during breakfast, my family and I walked through my actions, though they were happy with what I told them. When my father said that he would send someone to contact Callum, that's when we had an issue. I want to handle this myself, I told him flatly. Yes, I understand that, but he's been brainwashed and turned into a weapon. Imagine what he would have done to you if you hadn't run when you did. It's not up for the debate, Dad. I'll go back to training if that's what makes things easier for you to handle. It's a requirement now. And like that, I was removed from my own household and placed into care of an organization that handled the development of professional murder for hire. Well, that was a very small branch of the organization, but they handled other things that I am contractually obligated not to speak about. For months, I trained and shadowed various jobs and hits for the organization. I learned the tricks of the trade and developed good safety margins just in case I was ever in trouble. I was allowed minimum contact with anyone that I wasn't directly working with, or for the organization during the time I was there. I studied and trained until they saw fit to set me on my own couple of jobs. Once completed, the head sent word to my family, allowing me to go home, further assuring them that not only was I capable, but after whatever business I was going to handle, they would remain in contact in case if I ever wanted or needed to go back. There were no warm greetings when I arrived home. My once welcoming household had turned into what I could only explain as a barren wasteland. Many of the decorations and furniture had been removed. Everything was dusty and unkempt. It was a total turnaround to what I had been used to, even at this point. After my time with the organization, it's hard for me to say that the change mattered to me. I found my father in his study, his head in his hands, and halfway through an old vintage bottle of whiskey. He was sobbing. How unsightly, I cooed, almost mocking my old man. You call yourself a mobster and yet you're in tears because of what? You lost money? You owed people? I understand that a lot has changed, myself included, but this is pathetic. Darling, if you're just gonna do that, you can leave again. I know you kept the money from your work for the organization. I don't want you here if this is going to be a regular thing. I'm tired of both of you, and your mother constantly nagging and questioning my decisions. Maybe I will leave then. I tried to use this as a threat, but all I received was an audible drunken laughter. You're seriously choosing alcohol over your own family? I was so disappointed. My family was so corrupt and so, I don't know, disappointing. When my father sobered up, he promptly gave me all the information from my trust and told me to leave. Because of some attitude, I was disowned. Wonderful. Now the trust was set up so that I couldn't touch the money till I was older, under normal circumstances. The same day I came home, I said goodbye forever. I was out of the mob life and into another life, my own life. I could make my own decisions, given that I had the right guidance. General goodbyes were said between my mother and I. She gave me her private cell number. It was one that she kept from my father just for situations like this. My mother always had planned ahead, and she did it well. We parted ways through tears and very emotionally, I love yous. I was officially on my own. Well, not entirely. I got in touch with the organization once again. I asked for some time to find a place to stay, but I inquired about work and they happily obliged. I figure I would need the work to keep myself busy in between digging up information on Tom during downtime between jobs. I was going to finish what I started. I was going to either bring back Cal or kill Tom to release everyone he has under his filthy grasp. How? Well, I don't really know yet. I'm hoping to seize an opportunity when it arises. I'll write again when I get more information.